All right, I'm cutting out a groove in this transom, and we're going to cut out about 1/4 of an inch deep of that core all the way around it, and then I'm going to fill it with Travera, which is like a blue looking felt material, and when you impregnate it with resin, it's about as hard as aluminum, and it will keep that transom from being able to compress when you crank down on the bolts holding the motor on there. It's easier to do this with a plunge router if you have one, but I think I've just broken mine, so I'm doing this with a grinding tool. All right, just smoothing it out. You can see I've got a nice little trench all the way around my transom. Now I'm cutting out the bands of Travera. I'll make the first one the longest, and then the sequential one's a little bit shorter, I believe is how I did it. Now we're going to take all of them and we're going to wet them out in resin, which is a lovely process. And just kind of squeegee it out a little bit. Just make sure it gets fit in there good. Makes your transom really strong. Just pressing the edges down so it's a nice flush fit. And then once that all fires off, we'll grind it again and then add a little bit of fairing to get it nice, dead flat and pretty. All right, these are I make these little like footballs of material. This is the structural material, the 1708, and then I tear a bunch of mat, and we're going to connect the cap to the transom. And I just wet it all up at one time so that the resin impregnates it really good, and then I can just set them in place. We're just going to bond this in real good with just multiple pieces. You're just trying to make a really good bond so that when you get the torque of the engine trying to flex the transom, it will have a good bite to the cap and it won't cause any little surface cracks. And even if you get surface cracks here, it has nothing to do with the integrity of your transom, because your transom is one part to the boat. You could run your boat without a cap on it and have no trouble. But you want to make a really good bond here so you don't get those little cracks, because they're just a pain in the butt. Now I've got mat on all of those too, and that video got cut a little bit short. It would have been ground and finished out before we started the gel coat process. All right, now we're going back over it. So we're just kind of grinding this down. Then there's going to be some fairing on there. I'd use the structural material and then the mat over the top, and then ridge roll it so you try to get a nice, clean, good bond. Right now we're just cleaning this up. Got a little bit of fairing on that, sanding it down, getting it to look nice. It's a good strong bond. I like to use those nice long strokes applying the fairing compound. And now I'm sanding it off, and you notice how I just follow around that radius. Don't dwell on it because you can grind through the material. All right, this is my cutoff router, and it's set at about 1 3/4 or 1 7/8. I'm not exactly sure. And then you trim that whole thing off so that you have an edge to run your rub rail. Right now we're taping it off and getting ready to put the non-skid on, and then outside that line, once we peel the tape off, will be clear finish. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but if you want it to look pretty, it's worth it. All right, we're putting the first coat of gel coat on the cap, and this will all be non-skid. All right, the tape's all peeled off, and the next step will be to put the clear on the raw edges. And this has no non-skid material in it. I'm using a hot dog roller. That's it.